Ready to create an amazing story?
Choose a book from one of these real-life writing heroes
to make a new story just like theirs. The Bronte sisters were creative people who loved to pretend.
Charlotte, Emily, and Anne wrote lots of great stories.
Hey, let's create a story about us pretending. One rainy day, Yadina pretended to be. One rainy day, Yadina pretended to be an astronaut. And Xavier pretended to be. And Xavier pretended to be a baseball player. Yadina and Xavier pretended they were inside. Yadina and Xavier pretended they were inside a library. When suddenly, they pretended the floor turned into... When suddenly, they pretended the floor turned into lava. So then, Brad pretended to rescue his friends as... Dun-da-da-dun! So then, Brad pretended to rescue his friends as... Dun-da-da-dun! Bike Man! Xavier and Yadina were proud to have such a brave friend as they climbed aboard Brad's rescue. Xavier and Yadina were proud to have such a brave friend as they climbed aboard Brad's rescue dinosaur.
Thanks for telling such a surprising story about us.
And pretending some amazing things. Just like the Bronte sisters. Mary Shelley used her imagination to write stories that were totally different from everybody else's. Some of her stories were spooky.
Ooh, let's create a story about Xavier. Your way. Xavier was walking in the woods when suddenly something happened that was very... Xavier was walking in the woods when suddenly something happened that was very spooky. He came face to face with a... He came face to face with a ghost. At first, Xavier tried to... Xavier tried to hide. But then, Xavier decided to be brave. Xavier stood bravely, holding a flashlight. To Xavier's surprise, the ghost said, "Let's be friends."
Thanks for making an amazing story about me.
Your own way.
Just like Mary Shelley.
Zora Neale Hurston wrote all kinds of stories.
And she shared them with people all around the world. Hey, let's create a sharing story about Brad. Brad was writing his new comic book alone in... Brad was writing his new comic book alone in the classroom.
When suddenly Brad saw a lonely... When suddenly Brad saw a lonely octopus. So, Brad decided to share his comic book about... Bike Man! Reading Brad's comic book together made it so... silly. So then they decided to... write a new story.
Thanks for telling an awesome sharing story about me.
Stories are best when you share them with others.
Just like Zora and Neale Hurston.
Nellie Bly wrote about some big, and sometimes scary, adventures she went on.
Nellie was bold. That means she was brave and willing to try new things.
Hey, let's create a story about Yadina being bold. At the playground, Yadina was too scared to try the monkey bars, so she went on. The swing. When suddenly, Dr. Zoom was carried away by... a bird. Yadina had to be bold and chase after Dr. Zoom using her... jetpack. Then Dr. Zoom landed on top of... the moon. To save Dr. Zoom, Yadina had to be bold and climb up... the pizza stairs. To celebrate rescuing Dr. Zoom, she gave her best turtle friend a big... hug.
When you really want to do something, be bold.
Thanks for telling such a cool story about me being bold.
Just like Nellie Bly.
Charles Dickens used his imagination to write great stories.
Stories that lots of people still love today.
Ooh, let's create a story about Brad's imagination.
Your imagination makes everything more fun.
One day, Brad was laying down on his... bed. When suddenly, Brad imagined it was... a spaceship. And Brad imagined he was in and Brad imagined he was in outer space. Then Brad imagined he saw... Then Brad imagined he saw chickens. And Brad imagined he was holding a... And Brad imagined he was holding a banana. So Brad imagined he was relaxing in... So Brad imagined he was relaxing in the butterfly conservatory.
Thanks for telling such a silly story about my imagination.
Using your imagination makes everything more fun.
Just like Charles Dickens.